Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. It's a pleasure to have you all with us. I can see that we've still got some of you joining us, so I'm just going to give it another moment for you all to hop on before we kick off with today's content. We do have a lot to get through today, so I'm going to start as promptly as possible. I want to make sure that we have time for your questions and to answer those at the end of today's session. Most of you by now will be familiar with Zoom, but if you're not, you will be able to see that there is a Q&A box available to you. Please feel free to use that during today's session. At any point, drop a question in there. And as I say, we're going to make sure we ring fence some time at the end of today's session to check out those questions and see if we can answer as many of them as possible. My name's Lindsay O'Connor. I'm the General Manager for Content across our Pacific region at LexisNexis, and I am delighted to be joined today by Rupert Roby. Rupert is our Senior Product Manager, and he's leading the development of our Protege solution, and in particular, the exciting developments that we're going to be talking to you about today. However, before we get to the part of today's session where we get to have a look at those developments, I want to just start off with a simple observation. For all of the investment in legal technology over the past decade across platforms, tools, and now AI, the way legal work actually gets done hasn't really fundamentally changed. We've definitely become faster at finding information, we've automated parts of the process, but the core workflow of legal practice has largely remained the same. That's what makes this moment different, because I believe we're now at a true inflection point where AI is no longer just something you use, but it's becoming something that is embedded directly into how your legal work happens. Not just a chatbot you can ask questions to, but a context-aware co-pilot working directly alongside you within your workflow at the point of need. And this shift hasn't just been incremental, it's now transformational. And it's changing how all of you across the legal profession draft, analyze, and advise. It's also raising client expectations, particularly around speed, the level of insights they expect to receive, and efficiency. But at the same time, we're also seeing an increase in the importance of accuracy, accountability, and trust. And we're going to be talking about more in detail of those themes later on today. Critically, this is where one of the biggest differentiators in AI emerges, because the value of AI in legal practice really isn't just the technology itself. It's about the quality, the authority, and the provenance of the content that underpins that AI. AI that's grounded in that authoritative, up-to-date legal content can be trusted, verified, and defended, whereas the AI that's out there right now in the market that isn't simply can't be. So today we're going to explore what this shift really means for the practice of law. We're going to start off by looking at how legal practice is evolving. We're there going to discuss in detail what this actually means for everyday legal tasks, and in particular, the risks that come with that. And then we're going to see what it takes to adopt AI in a way that is secure, responsible, and aligned with your professional obligations. And then finally, we're going to hand over to Rupert to look at how Protégé Workflows are going to work for you in your everyday practice. That's where we're going to see how LexisNexis is really responding to this shift in the industry. We're going to start today's session by talking about how legal practice is evolving as a result of technology. Now you're going to see on your screen a poll. I really want to kick off today by getting a sort of baseline of where all of you are in your own AI journey. So the question that you're being asked is, which statement best describes how your organization is currently using AI? This is going to give us an indication of broadly where all of you are sitting in your journey at the moment. We're going to just let this poll run for a moment, and then we will have our results available to you all on screen very shortly. The reason we want to look at the ways in which legal practice is evolving is because I really believe that although there's been a transformative promise of legal tech in recent years, the actual work of the legal function hasn't fundamentally shifted. But I think we're going to start to see those shifts really happen in the near future. So hopefully you can all now see the results of the first poll from today's session. And we're seeing that most people are sitting in the space of using AI to assist with legal research, which is really great. We hopefully have helped support you on that journey, and that's definitely one of the key user cases that we've seen for AI up to now. But today we're going to talk about how we move beyond that, how we move beyond using AI just to assist with that legal research part of your process, and how we can actually use it to add value at all the other important parts in your legal workflow. Now, the incremental developments that we've seen up until now have really helped with what we've just seen on screen there, that legal research journey, that ability to help lawyers to access the most relevant information as quickly as possible. We've also seen an evolution of that into helping to automate specific tasks that you might need to do every day in practice. But right now, we're entering a phase where technology is becoming embedded directly into your workflow itself. Not as an add on that you have to specifically reach out to, but a core part of how your legal work is executed. This provides a real opportunity to drive genuine and sustained change in the way legal services are delivered. This is going to provide a step change in both productivity and efficiency of the work you do day to day. So, if we use the example of how AI has been utilized in legal research up until now, we can see that that looks like searching for information, finding information, then you're involved in analyzing that, and then potentially using the information to go on to draft, review, and other steps in your workflow. However, what we're moving to now is contextual workflows, where that research that you have needed to do will inform whatever task you're completing, be it drafting or advisory work in real time. That will also incorporate a layer of risk analysis so you know exactly what the potential risks to your client are and can give them that advice in an expedient format. AI is no longer just a chatbot that you have to reach out to with specific questions. It's becoming that context aware co pilot that's embedded into your day to day processes at the point of which you're working, and fundamentally also understands the task, the jurisdiction, and the matter context that you're working on. So, why does this matter strategically? Clients' expectations are also shifting. They're expecting lawyers to now use AI, and with this, they have expectations around faster turnaround, greater efficiency, and they're expecting those data driven insights that really inform the advice that you're providing to them. But at the same time, they have a zero tolerance for errors and an expectation of absolute confidentiality. So, what I think we're seeing now is that law firms are under increasing pressure to increase their productivity, but also not increase their exposure to risk. And I think that's why we're seeing the conversation right now move from should we use AI to how do we use AI? And most importantly, how do we use it safely, responsibly, and in a way that enhances legal judgment? We're already seeing that the most forward thinking firms are investing in end to end workflow transformation, not just standalone AI tools, because these point solutions can create fragmentation. And with that fragmentation comes increased risk. Whereas a workflow solution creates consistency, auditability, and control over that end to end process. Up until now, the automation of legal tasks we've seen tends to focus on using technology to replicate the tasks that you're already doing in your business as usual work. However, where AI lends an extra level of value is that it enables us to now reimagine those end to end processes. This is part of the focus of workflows as part of Protege that you're going to be seeing today, where we're going to be offering those end to end workflows designed to support that entire process rather than simply being basic task based. And most importantly, we'll also be offering the ability for all of you to custom build your own workflows. And that will enable you to leverage both your firm's own content. We know how important that is to you, but also LexisNexis content and all of the trust and authority that comes with utilizing that content. I believe that right now we're just on the cusp of seeing the change that will be prompted by this shift in innovation, as the legal industry really has to adapt and shape itself to solve these new challenges in completely new ways. And potentially, I think we're going to see this reimagining the ways in which legal advice is both formulated and delivered to your clients. I'm going to now take a little look at the transformation of really the everyday legal tasks. So, the type of work that all of you are performing on a daily basis, how that's shifting. The efficiency gains that come with utilizing AI tools also come with new professional risks. But first of all, let's talk about the reality of your day to day work. In practice, a lot of time is spent on drafting and reviewing, cross checking, risk assessment, preparing client advices, and also client management and communications. A lot of those areas are really the precise areas that AI can have a big impact. So, some of the things that we've seen changing are that first drafts can now be generated in minutes rather than hours. We're seeing that case law that once upon a time took a huge amount of time to kind of read through and establish what the most important case was can now be summarized at scale, not just individual cases, but entire case histories. And contracts can be reviewed for risk in just minutes. However, the legal profession operates in a high stakes, high accountability environment. So, speed without accuracy is not progress, it's exposure. The limitations of generic I think will all really be across these now because it's so fundamentally important to the question of whether we adopt AI. But just to summarize what some of those limitations are, we can see that generic AI is not grounded in authoritative legal sources. It really lacks that jurisdictional nuance, which is particularly important across Australia. And it cannot verify the currency of the law. So the risk on relying on out of date law is really high. We've already seen in practice hallucinated case citations, outdated legal principles being relied upon, and confidential information being input into public tools. It's not just about getting the law wrong, it's also about traceability, explainability, and accountability. So, what does this mean for all of us as lawyers in practice? AI can accelerate work, but it cannot replace your legal judgment, your ability to verify the work, and also your ability to apply contextual interpretation around the matter that you're working on. We're now seeing this key shift from lawyers who are doing the work to you becoming managers. You're directing, managing, and verifying the outputs of the tools that are available to you. This is really an evolution in the role of lawyers from being a reactive problem solver called upon when something goes wrong to being a proactive risk advisor, adding real value to your clients. Identifying any potential issues very early enables you to provide context informed solutions, which are aimed at avoiding or minimizing risk. AI is essentially fundamentally changing the mechanics of legal work, but not the responsibility for its outcome. I'm going to move on in a moment to talking about secure and responsible AI, but we're a few moments into the webinar now, so I just want to remind you all about the Q&A box down there. I can see that we're getting some questions come through already, but please remember as we're talking today to pop your questions in there and we will make sure that we get to some of them later on today. Let's move on now to talk about secure and responsible AI adoption. This is one of the most fundamental parts of choosing to adopt AI. It's not just a technology decision about whether to adapt these tools, but also becomes a governance issue. Before we move on to talk about this in a little more detail, you can see that we have the second of today's polls. This one is really asking about your need for authoritative legal content as part of your workflow. You all know how important that is to us. It's the foundation of the AI tools that we build for our customers. But we really want to know what legal content is important to you as part of your everyday workflows. There's a number of options on there on screen. One of those options is that you require multiple types of the above. So just bear that in mind before you jump at the first answer that you see on screen there. We'll just give it a moment for you all to respond, and then we will see your responses on the screen very soon. Excellent. I can see we've got lots of responses coming through now. I can also see some of you putting in the question and answer box some more detail on that poll question, which is fantastic. We've got some people noting that they really use the content across multiple different parts of their workflows, which is really great to see. Overwhelmingly, the majority response here is people requiring to use multiple types of content. So, all of the above that we're providing there. And that's really when we come to talk about authoritative content in a moment. What we see as the key differentiator with our Protege solution, we're not just providing you with access to one type of content, you're really gaining access to the entire content ecosystem, interlinked, curated, and all working together to really give you the most relevant and accurate answers as part of that workflow. I'm just going to return now to talk about secure and responsible AI adoption. And as we were just reviewing, this isn't really just a technology decision for your firms. It really is fundamentally a governance decision. And actually making the decisions up front when you're taking this choice about how to implement the most appropriate safeguards will actually pay off in the future as and when you're in a position to implement these AI solutions. I think a lot of firms, when they're talking about AI adoption, the tendency is to first of all ask, what can this do for me? What are the functions of the tool? What can it actually do? But I think by far the more important question for all of us to consider is actually, what are the risks and how do we as a firm manage those risks? This secure and responsible adoption really requires a few different items. First of all, governance. Secondly, controls. And thirdly, transparency. So, some of those key governance considerations might include things like where the data is processed. Will that data be used to train the provider's models? Who has access to the data? And really, does the solution align with your professional obligations as a lawyer? We know that from a risk perspective, firms need to have very clear policies on AI use for all of your team. There also need to be clearly defined approval processes in place. Also, it's important that we're implementing training for legal professionals and that that's not a transactional one-off training program that we run, but that training evolves and keeps pace with technological developments. And then finally, and probably most importantly for all of you as lawyers, that human in the loop validation at all stages of the workflow to ensure both accuracy and also to provide that all important context. These really aren't just theoretical considerations anymore. We've all seen globally that governments and regulators and our professional bodies, law societies, for example, are now starting to issue specific guidance. They're monitoring the use of these tools and they're really developing expectations that firms demonstrate both oversight, risk management, and compliance with any of this guidance that's been issued. We can see particularly that law societies have quite proactively developed guides on the use of responsible AI all across the world. The Law Society of New South Wales Guide to Responsible Use of AI was updated earlier this year in January. And I think it's really important to just call out a specific quote from that guidance. The advice there really is that solicitors employ the same level of care and caution as they would with a legal assistant or a paralegal. And in particular, that involves exercising independent forensic judgment based on their own training, experience, and research. And most importantly, that they review, check, edit, and correct any output to be confident it is reliable and correct. And I really think that that statement sort of sums up what we're talking about here in the responsible AI use space. So, what we then see is that the most important factors for successful firms are that they're not looking at banning AI use, nor are they blindly adopting AI tools. What they're looking to do is to embed AI tools within their secure environments and ensuring that they have controlled day-to-day workflows. So, what we can say about responsible AI, I think, is that it's not about limiting innovation. We absolutely don't want to do that, but we do need to make sure that where we are innovating, we're doing it safely and responsibly. One of the ways that we can really ensure that what we're relying on from AI tools is both safe and reliable is, of course, by giving consideration to how these models are trained and where the information that powers them is coming from. I think that the trust in AI tools really comes from both the quality and the provenance of the knowledge of those tools. There's a really fundamental difference between AI that's trained on the open web and AI that's grounded in authoritative, accurate, and up-to-date legal content. What you see from the general AI tools that I'm sure many of you will have experimented with is that they can be quite inconsistent. Often the content that they are grounded on can be outdated. They really don't take account of those jurisdictional specific differences that are so vitally important in many parts of the world, but especially in Australia. They are unverified, and of course, often you don't get those all important citations, which enable you to see where that information is coming from. On the other hand, when we talk about authoritative legal content, there's a number of factors there that can give you the trust and confidence in using that. Some of those factors are that this content is really heavily curated to make sure that what we're putting forward is the most important information that you need to rely on. We're also ensuring that this content is continuously updated so that we limit that risk of you relying on out of date information. Information can also be jurisdictionally specific, so that that is a factor that is taken into account when you're interacting with these AI tools, that we ensure that the information that's surfaced to you is based on that specific jurisdiction. Of course, we have the all important linked citations so that you can go away, comply with your professional obligations by independently verifying where that information has come from. And then, perhaps most importantly, that on top of all of that, we're not just helping you see what the law actually is, we're also providing those contextual insights which are drawn from real life legal experience. That real life legal experience that comes from our, large teams of expert authors who are providing those insights to you. So you can really be assured that when an AI is grounded in that authoritative content, the outputs that you're seeing can be verified, trusted, defended, and genuinely insightful, adding a level of insight over and above just what the law is. If it isn't grounded in AI, what you're going to often see is very plausible sounding answers, but lacking in that legal foundation. I think all of us have now seen across Australia multiple cases where legal professionals' misuse of AI has resulted in a number of different impacts. We've had judicial criticism quite vocally in several cases. There have been referrals to legal regulators, costs orders, and of course, significant adverse publicity in all of those cases. The stakes here are really high. If you want to read a little bit more about some of those sort of cases that we've seen over the past year or so, there's a really excellent report from UNSW's Centre for the Future of Legal Professions report called Gen AI, Fake Law and Fallout, which was published late last year in November. And that really gives a great summary of some of those cases and some of the impacts on the professionals involved that we've seen. So, avoiding those situations is one of the reasons why the real value for legal professionals emerges in combining trusted legal sources, but also your firm's own knowledge, which we know is really important to you. A huge amount of time and effort goes in across many firms to maintaining your own professional knowledge databases. And then finally, also that matter specific context that you have at hand when you're dealing with a matter. Embedding that robust supervision and verification processes when using AI is really critical. And that might particularly be the case where you have more junior lawyers who might lack the appropriate knowledge to spot up front when something doesn't quite look right, or actually for anybody if you're working under time or information access constraints. It can be very easy to sort of miss something if you don't have complete confidence in the information that's being provided to you. And we really believe that the provision of those verifiable citations up front to help back up those AI outputs facilitates you to be able to do that. And strategically, this is really important because what we see is that trust is really the currency of legal practice. That's what your clients are coming to you for. They're coming to you so that they can have absolute confidence in the advice that you're giving to them. And any AI solution that you're looking to adopt as part of your workflows absolutely has to operate within that all important trust framework. We know that these are often long standing relationships you have with your clients, and we don't want something to go wrong in that process which endangers that relationship that you have. So, look, we've taken a little bit of time now to look at the various different ways in which AI is really redefining how legal work gets done. And as I say, I think we're really just at the cusp of that. I think over the coming months, we're going to see even more innovative ways developing about how these processes can be reimagined. I think we've also seen that this really isn't just a technology conversation. This isn't just looking at technology vendors and assessing what the features are and what the tool can do. This is fundamentally a trust conversation. Because without that authoritative content backing up those AI tools, the AI is just generating answers for you. But when you have that content that you can rely upon, you're really left with a tool that lawyers can stand behind and you can confidently use to deliver better outcomes for your clients. I'm really pleased that we've now got to the very exciting point of today's webinar where we're going to be able to have a look at what this all actually means in practice for you. I'm sure this is the main reason that most of you have joined us today. Rupert is going to be able to now demonstrate to us how those structured end-to-end legal workflows can enable that scalable, secure, and responsible AI adoption. He's going to share some of the upcoming developments that we have in the Protege world, including some of our pre-built workflows and also the ability to build your own custom workflows. So I'm going to hand over now to Rupert, who'll be able to talk to you about those developments in a little bit more detail. Over to you, Rupert.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So today I'm very excited to preview Protege's forthcoming evolution into an end-to-end workflow solution. Protege right now is a task-based assistant combining specialized legal AI and general purpose models to support lawyers with their daily work. Users can perform around 40 legal tasks, spanning research, drafting, summarization, and document analysis, as well as a range of non-legal tasks. In practice, as Lindsay has explained today, legal work doesn't arise in isolation, but within connected workflows. And to reflect this reality, we are introducing new functionality for users to build their own multi-step, reusable workflows grounded in authoritative content. At the same time, we are repositioning the individual tasks in Protege as guided workflows. And to make this transformation more tangible, we've also built a new interface that's centered on a workflow-driven experience. So Protege with Workflows, as it will be known, will replace the existing Protege. Current subscribers will have access to it at no additional cost or change to your subscription. Once it's available to your firm or organization, you'll see a new icon here in the Experience stock in Lexis Plus. Today, I'll be showing you a pre-release US version of Protege with Workflows. It's still in active development, and also some of the features that you see may not be present in the Australian version. So I'll just switch over now. Here is the new interface that I mentioned just now. We've replaced the complexity of the existing design with a cleaner workspace layout that would feel immediately familiar to you if you've used other AI solutions. The left-hand sidebar here provides streamlined access to core features, including workflows, vaults, prior conversation, user settings down the bottom, and then we also have the product switcher to enable seamless navigation back to other Lexis Plus experiences. The central workspace here, this is where kind of all the action happens. This is where you interact with Protege, either by prompting or launching a workflow, as I'll do now. These workflows have multiple points of entry, including through this new library. And the workflows are organized into three categories. There's litigation, transactional, and common. Many of these workflows are tasks currently available in Protege, but we have added new ones based on your feedback, including summarizing redline changes and populating templates. The list will expand over time, and to that end, please let us know either via the chat for this webinar or other channels what workflows you want to see. Each workflow appears as a task card and provides a structured entry point to a common legal task. Most start with an uploaded document or a short set of instructions with context. And let me demonstrate one now. So for this scenario, imagine I'm a trial attorney who has brought a complaint of tortious interference on behalf of a client. The defendant has filed a motion for summary judgment, and I need to draft opposing arguments. So I'd start by looking for an appropriate or a suitable workflow. Whoops. Okay. I can see draft a legal argument here. I have the option to draft my own document, or sorry, I should say I have the option to draft the argument from my own documents or from scratch. Just before the webinar, I created a vault containing a couple of documents, which I will select now. So we have the summary judgment application, which I'm opposing, as well as my initial complaint. So I'll select both of those. Now I need to give more detail around the argument I want to draft. And you can see that there are instructions on the interface about what information to include in my prompt to get the best possible output. So I'll go ahead and enter a prompt now and hit submit. I have asked Protege to draft an argument opposing the defendant's motion for summary judgment, focusing on the elements of tortious interference, improper conduct, and causation. I've also clarified that the particular matter arises under Illinois law. The reason I've demonstrated argument drafting today is because this capability exists as a task in the Australian product already. And just to reiterate, all of those existing tasks will become guided workflows in the new experience. While the response is loading, just a quick update on our drafting roadmap. We're expanding our litigation drafting suite to applications very shortly, followed by pleadings and full submissions in the second half of the year. Our transactional drafting suite is already well established with support for clauses, agreements, contracts, deeds, policies, resolutions, and checklists. And then, of course, you have more general drafting outputs like emails, letters, and memos as well. So here is the draft response. You can see that it contains source links through to grounding passages in the uploaded document. Once again, this feature already exists in the Australian product today, so I encourage you to check it out. Just scrolling down further, the draft argument also leverages extensively LexisNexis primary and secondary content. This is just, I think, and of course, as Lindsay kind of alluded to earlier, you can verify these sources in the same way that you would in Protege today. These references illustrate how Lexis content is used beyond legal research responses to also support drafting, summarization, and document analysis workflows as well. Now, if I just scroll to the top of my response, now that it's loaded, I have the option to download it or open and edit it in the new drafting canvas. This canvas offers the same editing capabilities as before, but with enhanced formatting controls, including those that you can see across the top of the screen. We have a new tracker or a new toggle to track AI and your own changes. And then you can either download the document or copy and paste it into your environment. Argument drafting is one of the around 50 pre-built workflows that will be available in the Australian product at launch. But of course, more will be added progressively in the same way we develop new tasks today. I just want to switch over now to focus on a new type of workflow, namely custom workflows. As Lindsay alluded to earlier, you'll have the ability in this new solution to configure your own repeatable workflows in a no-code interface that I will demonstrate now. And to do so, I have created a new vendor contract review workflow. It comprises document inputs, user prompts, branching logic, and AI tasks, and it took me about 5 minutes to create. Just briefly, it starts with the user uploading a vendor contract. If the value of the contract is under $100,000, the contract is reviewed for business risk. If the value of the contract is equal or greater than 100,000, the user is then prompted to upload a completed vendor responsibility questionnaire as well. And both the contract and a questionnaire are reviewed for high-risk clauses and vendor disclosures. If I just click on one of these steps, you can see that each step is customizable. For AI tasks, users will be able to select the AI model and response format, and soon the grounding data as well. As you can also see, I have the option to test and iterate on the workflow, and once published, the new workflow will appear on my account to run whenever needed. We have an extensive roadmap for the workflow builder, including the ability to use templates and auto-generate workflows based on your instructions alone. So it's really exciting new functionality to help you build your own bespoke and content-rich workflows. Just now, I've been focusing on workflows, but users will still be able to ad hoc prompt as well. And the prompt experience is more intuitive in this new solution. You simply select between ask and draft and enter your prompt in this prominent text box. If you want to upload a document, add a document from a vault, apply a jurisdictional filter, or activate a tool, you can do so via the drop-down menu. This tool that you can see here, AI-guided research, is also available in the Australian product today. And I encourage you to check it out. It currently, or in the current version, it's activated by toggling a button in the prompt bar. This initiates an agentic guided experience where you can review the agent's research plan and selection of grounding sources before it generates the response. Besides facilitating greater user interactivity and also providing more transparency over the agent's reasoning processes, it's also just a more robust solution for complex and scenario-based prompts. Also, you have the option to generate starting prompt suggestions. So you can simply enter a keyword or a query, and this prompt suggestions button will appear. And this will generate up to 5 starting prompts with an explanation of when you'd use each to help you to kickstart your research. As some of you may have noticed also, when I opened the library earlier, we also provide template prompts to help you get started. For all your ad hoc legal tasks, we have general AI, which is accessible via this toggle at the top of the interface. And then you have access to leading models from providers, including Anthropic. There will be Google as well, and OpenAI. Alternatively, you have the option to let Protege to decide the best model based on the task at hand. So this was just a very quick preview of the of Protege with workflows. In summing up, the 3 core elements are the pre-built workflows, custom workflows, and ad hoc prompting. We have designed the solution to support legal work in a more structured and dependable way, and this will increase efficiency, improve consistency of work, and also reduce the risk of error. So with that, I'll pass it back to Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Rupert. That was incredibly exciting to see. I know I've now had an opportunity to look at the product several times, and every time I see it, it just blows me away with the new functionality and abilities that we are talking about. I can also see that we have clearly blown away a lot of the people on the webinar today because the Q&A is really ramping up. We've had a lot of questions come through, which I expected to be the case. And I'm delighted that we've got a good chunk of time now to start to cover off some of those questions. So I'm going to work my way through some of the questions that have come through. I will apologize in advance if we do not get to all of them. If we're not able to get to all of the questions today, and looking at how many we've got, I suspect we may not be able to. What we'll do is if you have left your name and we can work out who you are, then we will be able to contact you directly via your relationship manager if you are one of our existing customers. If not, we will find a way to group the sort of themes of the questions and the key information and ensure that that's included within our FAQs and the information that supports us when we go out to launch with Protege. So, Rupert, I think by far the most common question I have seen in the question box is that this looks fantastic, but when is this going to be available within the Australian legal market? When can customers get their hands on these new developments that we've seen?
So the good news is that it's coming very soon. We're looking to launch earlier than mid-year, but users will be moved across to this new solution progressively, and your relationship managers will be able to provide more information about the timing. But it's in final stage development at the moment, and you'll have access to it very soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Rupert. Okay, the next question I can see that's come through quite a few times is around, will this be customized and a special version for the Australian market? Obviously, Rupert, you were doing
Yeah.
your demo on the US version, so I think we can probably clear that up quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned at the start that I was demonstrating the US product, but like so some of the features will be in common. All the core capabilities will exist. So you have the pre-built workflows, the custom workflow builder capability, and then also the ad hoc prompting experience. So both access to legal AI and general AI. There may be some slight differences in the workflows available, either because we are yet to develop those for the Australian market or they don't have any application to us. But I just take this opportunity to say that we are very much led by the needs of the Australian market. And so I mentioned earlier that we're always welcome your feedback on new workflows to prioritize. And I gave the example of summarizing red line changes, which had been requested various times.
Excellent. Thanks, Rupert. And actually, related to that question, I can also see a few questions asking about whether there are going to be standard Australia specific workflows available in the tool. So I know obviously we showed the custom workflow builder, but will customers have access to sort of standard workflows that have been built by ourselves?
Sorry, Lindsay, can you just repeat the question? You're quite faint.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Sorry. So the question was, will our customers have access to standard pre-built workflows as part of the product, or will it just be the custom workflow builder
No.
for Australia?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it will be both the pre-built workflows and the custom workflows. Think of the pre-built workflows as an alternate to ad hoc prompting. It just
Mhm.
provides like a convenient entry point to a common legal task. I gave the example of drafting a legal argument, and another might be generating a timeline or comparing and contrasting documents. The custom workflow builder capability is intended for those intricate multi-step workflows where you may be combining multiple elements such as analysis, drafting, and research.
Excellent. Thanks, Rupert. And related to that, I can see we've got a number of questions which are asking about whether we're going to have quite specific workflows present in the tool. So, for example, we've got people asking for workflows such as drafting a legal motion for parenting orders in the Federal Circuit and Family Court, and a few other questions which are very similar, asking for quite specific
Yeah.
workflows. That's actually, this is fantastic for us. This is one of the reasons we like to take questions during our webinar sessions, because actually having those questions asked to us gives us a really fantastic indication of the types of workflows that you might be interested in. So we definitely want to find a way to gather that information from you about what kind of workflows it is you want to see. I believe, Rupert, this isn't going to be a sort of one and done type development,
No.
right? We're not just going to keep just the workflows that we launch with. There'll be the ability to add them in future, if I'm correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an extensive roadmap of workflows that are queued for development. The workflows that I've covered today, I describe them as like a more practice area agnostic, like general workflows like legal argument, drafting transactional documents. That's not to say that they're not supported by like extensive testing and data science engineering. It's just that they're broader capabilities that will support, output regardless of the practice area. But we do plan to move into more practice area specific workflows. And I think you may have seen some examples in the US product when I was demonstrating that earlier.
Excellent. Thanks, Rupert. And sort of on this similar theme, this is obviously something that's particularly important to people. Obviously, we've got a lot of interest in this workflows function and people wanting to understand a little bit more about how this works and what is going to actually power those workflows. So we've got a couple of questions which are really around the use of content as part of some of those pre-built workflows, whether they're going to be content enabled with LexisNexis content, and if so, what content will be powering those workflows?
Sure. So yeah, we're using a combination. Will be LexisNexis content. You also have the ability to leverage your own content. That may be a document that you upload on a one-time basis or a document that you pull from your vault. The content that's actually used to ground those workflows it varies depending on the nature of the workflow. So in some cases, it might be very heavy on legislation or case law. Other times it might be different content sets. But we do have access to the full breadth of LexisNexis primary and secondary content in Lexis Plus. And we use that, I should clarify, both to design the workflows, to tune our models, but then also to ground the responses so that you can easily verify the output.
Excellent. Thank you, Rupert. I think I've sort of grouped together the main questions on workflows there. So I'm going to move on to a couple of other topics that have come up a few times in the questions. And there's one here I'm particularly interested to tackle because we've had a few people ask a similar question. So this one is relation to governance. Will we be able to expose the native chain of thought of the LLMs we use in the workflows to be able to surface that up as an artifact together with the output? So obviously we saw that during the workflow, Rupert, that you were demonstrating the chain of thought. Will customers be able to sort of surface that up in some way?
Yeah, so not currently. You'll see the train of thought in the response. And in fact, with the AI guide response, I didn't generate a response, but I just like alluded to that capability. You'll see a full breakdown you'll see the reasoning process, you'll see a breakdown of the subqueries, and also the grounding sources, which are available for your verification. That reasoning process doesn't translate to the downloaded document yet. But that's I can understand why that would be a key requirement. We can consider that for future development.
Excellent. Thanks, Rupert. So moving on again to a different topic now. This really speaks to, I was talking earlier about secure and responsible AI. So I think this question sort of directly ties back to that. We've had a few questions on this subject, so I'll just sort of generalize what I think they're trying to get to. Essentially, it's around the fact that lots of different types of legal work require people to put often quite highly personal information into Protege. So particularly criminal matters. We obviously have quite a few criminal lawyers on today's call, and obviously family law matters too. We've had a few questions too from family lawyers. So the question here is really around where is that information held, and can the users be confident that it is both secure and not accessible to the AI for learning or for use in other Protege functions? I know this is something that is incredibly important to us at LexisNexis, so I think it makes sense to deal with this one.
Sure. So we have the same data protection and privacy protocols in place within the new solution as we do in the existing Protege. So you might be familiar with some of those. User interactions and user documents are entirely private to the individual. They're not accessible, certainly not accessible to third parties. We have very strict protections in place to mitigate the risk of third-party access. They are not used, just to address your further question, those like the custom users' documents, their uploaded documents, and user prompts are not used to train the models. And they're not used for any other purposes, but simply to generate the output to you within that conversation. Now, I've mentioned the fact that you can upload a document on a one-time basis to draft off or to analyze or to summarize. You can also do that, you will also, I should say, be able to do that within a workflow. That document will be purged after 10 minutes. And in fact, you can purge the document and the full conversation earlier by deleting it from the taskbar on the left-hand side. If you use a document within a vault, that document will persist in our secure cloud for as long as you need it. But then you can, of course, delete that document when you no longer need it. And while it's in the vault, it will be secure, and it certainly won't be used for or accessible to any third parties or used for model training.
Excellent. Thanks, Rupert. Now, slight change of tone here. I think often on these webinars, there's a tendency for people to often reply to the easy questions or the nice questions, but we've got nothing to hide around here at LexisNexis. So I'm going to take some slightly sort of trickier questions that I think we should also address while we have all of your attention today. So the first question we've got here is around why would I use your system as opposed to an agent built into another provider's system? What is different or better about your system? Well, look, Rupert and I today can only specifically talk about our own system. We don't have sort of intimate knowledge of other providers and what their systems are like. But I think what we can do is definitely address some of the key things for us at LexisNexis that have been really important to create a tool that we can really stand behind in terms of confidence and reliability to, really give us confidence that we're giving you something that is useful in your day-to-day work. So look, from my perspective, as you will see from my role title, I'm GM for content. So I can talk at length, although I will keep it brief because we're fast running out of time, about why our content is such an important factor. So in a few of the questions we've already answered, you have heard that the workflow tools that we're building as part of Protege are all grounded in that underlying LexisNexis content. So the vast majority of the content that we have published over the years, we are using to power our own AI algorithms. It is there, it is retrievable by the systems. And so we can be completely confident. And I think it is a key point of differentiation that it is that extensive content set that is driving all of the responses. And not just that there is extensive content in the background, but that we showcase that to you. We are giving you the citations so you know exactly what every answer is drawing upon. It is linking through to that content where you have access to it as part of your subscription. It is linking through to the primary law. So we're really helping you as much as we can to do your own verification process at the other side of it. What I would also say is that it's not just about having great content. We have a whole load of content, and often part of the tricky part of being a lawyer is finding the right piece of content that you need to rely upon. So one of the things that's really important to us at LexisNexis is we've built a whole specific team of what we call our data discovery and enrichment experts. This is a team of former lawyers whose full-time job is really going through our AI solutions such as Protege, running test prompts, running real life examples of the kind of prompts that lawyers will be wanting to enter, the kind of workflows that lawyers will be wanting to undertake. And they really grade all of the outputs of those on factors such as accuracy, reliability, comprehensiveness, relevance to the prompt that's been asked. And that's a continuous process. We don't just do that before launch. We're working through rounds of doing that kind of testing every single day. So we're really confident that the responses that are coming out of our tools are not just accurate, but also actually helpful for you. It's not just accurate law, but it's the right law. It's the most relevant part of the law that you need to complete your task. I don't know, Rupert, if there's anything on the product side or the security side you might want to comment to that question.
I actually just wanted to expand upon your point about the subject matter expert. So they're not just testing the outputs; they're also helping to design the workflows. And these are all subject matter experts from recent practice. They're leveraging that extensive practicing experience across multiple practice areas to help design workflows that are meaningful to an Australian audience. So we're not just lifting and shifting a US solution. We are designing this. It's designed by Australian lawyers and to meet the needs of those of that market.
Thanks, Rupert. And I think in relation to my comments just there, we've just had another question come through, which we should take at this time. And that's around customers who might choose to take up Protege and run a prompt which references certain sources. The question is, if a customer doesn't subscribe to the particular source that is cited, will they be able to review that source?
Yeah, so the experience is the same as between the current Protege and Protege with workflows, in that we don't ring fence the content that Protege draws its response upon. So it's not subscription dependent. But if it does draw upon, if it does ground its response on a source that's not within your subscription, you will still be able to see a snippet. So to help you verify the response, because we understand just the importance of that, as Lindsay was saying earlier, to a lawyer's professional responsibilities. But because you don't have a subscription to the underlying sources, you won't be able to click on the document to read that snippet in its full context.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Rupert. Slightly different theme here. We've just had a question come through around the general AI that you mentioned as part of your demo, Rupert. So the specific question here is, are the legal AI and the general AI systems completely separate and firewalled, or are they integrated?
No, they are separate. So we have separate legal AI and legally tuned models, I should say, that have been specifically tuned for those 40 odd legal tasks that will become workflows in the new solution. We then have separate general purpose models where we have or allowing users to unlock the more creative or the exploratory or brainstorming capabilities of those models to perform more kind of legally adjacent tasks. One thing to note about general AI is that we're going to continue to develop that environment. At the moment, users can ground responses on both open web content and their uploaded or vault documents. Shortly, we'll be adding LexisNexis as a content source to ground general AI as well, which will give you hopefully more confidence should you wish to attempt a legal task in that environment. But in all cases, when you're in general AI, we also provide citation checking. So that exists today. If you generate a response and there are citations, they will be cross-checked against our case-based database and hyperlinked.
Excellent. Thank you, Rupert. I can also see we've had a few questions coming through about cost. I am intentionally not going to take those questions on today's webinar. That is something that you are best placed to reach out to your account manager if you have one, or to our customer support, who will be able to link you through with somebody who can answer those questions. Not avoiding this one, just it is very personal to every single customer. We want to make sure you have the content you need to power the workflows, to power the AI tools that are best placed for you, your firm, or your practice. So those costs will be quite bespoke based on that underlying content set that you choose to take. So please do reach out for support from your account manager if that's something you're interested in finding out more about. I can see that we've got lots of suggestions coming through, lots of suggestions for potential workflows that we might want to include, which is fantastic. We will be able to access all of these questions after today's session, and we will put together a little list of those and aim to cover as many as we possible as part of that roadmap in future. It's great to get your feedback on this. We want this to be something where those pre-built workflows are really useful to you. So as Rupert says, that will be an ongoing program of work for us to address that with you. One other question that's come through, Rupert, and I think this might be the last one that we've got time for today, is around the custom workflow builder. Obviously, that is quite a new kind of tool, quite a new function for a lot of people on today's webinar. The question is really around support. What support will be available to customers in learning about all of the new functions that you've showcased today, but particularly around the custom workflow builder?
Yeah, so we'll be providing, it is, I just want to emphasize the fact that it is a no-code platform. So hopefully, as you saw it today, it is quite intuitive and easy to create those workflows. That being said, we'll provide extensive in-app support and in-person support as well, where required. I should also add just more broadly beyond the custom workflow builder that there will be a period of transition where you have dual access to the existing environment and then Protege with workflows, and all your data will sync across between the two. So it's not like you'll need to create new vaults or manually port across conversations. You'll have easy access to your user settings, conversations, and the vaults that you have already created in the existing environment. But we will also provide extensive support via the app to help orientate you to this new environment.
Thanks, Rupert. I think that's the last question we've got time for. So I just want to finish up today by recognizing that we have a lot of existing Protege customers on the webinar today. For those of you that are already a Protege customer, you can expect that we will proactively be in touch with you shortly. We're going to reach out to you with more information about these developments. They are something that you will be given our access to in the future. And so we will be in touch to discuss the timeline for that and also to arrange for training or support if you feel you need that to acquaint yourselves with things. If you are not an existing Protege customer, then today hopefully has piqued your interest. If you want more information about these upcoming developments and indeed anything that you've seen that is current functionality as part of Protege, please do reach out to your relationship manager. If you get one, they will be very happy to answer questions, to arrange for further demos, or to give you any further information you need. It has been wonderful having so many of you with us today, and particularly having so many of you engaged with asking questions of us. Hopefully, we've answered as many as we can. If we didn't get a chance to, as I say, we'll round up some key themes and find a way to get that information out to you. Thank you, everybody, for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you, Rupert, for a wonderful demo today.
Thanks.